Darlene, I think this is a great question. How long does it actually take to install in-ground inductive loops? And the three common loops that we seem to use are pave-over loops. That means that before the actual concrete is actually installed, we go in and actually put a conduit with wire in it to do the loop before the actual concrete. The second one is a preformed loop, and the third one is a hand wrap loop. Well, with the hand wrap and the preform, they're real similar installation techniques, and each of them has their benefits. So real quickly, what we've found the benefits for each one is a preformed loop. It gives you the benefit of having an extra jacket over the insulation of the wires. You get them tuned exactly how you want it. You get them tested before they leave the factory. In theory, you can use less sealant depending upon the type of sealant and the method that you use. Brian Dixon over at BD Loops is the best resource for those, not only from the manufacturing standpoint, but also from the cost benefits of using a preform versus hand wrapped. Most commonly, and in this video that I'm about to show you to give you an example of how long it takes, most commonly we use hand wrap loops. So the preform loop really only apply in new construction or when you're having a significant repair done to the concrete. So you're really just talking about the preform and the hand wrap loops. And the hand wrap loops, we like them because we have the flexibility out in the field to tune it exactly how we want it. As an example, we have a truck yard. We might want to put a 5-foot deep loop so we can actually increase our height. Well, if we don't have one of those in stock, we can't actually make the move real quick. And with the preform loop, you have to, buy those in advance because you're not making them in the shop. And with hand wrap loops, as that example, bad concrete, situational changes between when you did the initial paperwork and inspection have changed. You have plumbing came in and cut across the drive, or you have some damaged concrete that you didn't see before. And that's the benefit that we have with hand wrap loops. So the examples I'm going to show you here is 4 hand wrap loops that was done with 2 people. Do the saw cuts and actually clean the whole area, pressure wash the whole area afterwards. And then we actually hand wrap the loop with 18 gauge copper tinned XLPE wire, and then we used a backer rod and a sealant to seal them. So it depends on how you factor that in. There are some times that we will actually go out and mark the loops prior to them being cut. Typically, we like to actually be there when they're being cut. That way, if a corner gets missed or we have to make an audible change, which does happen, you think you want it laid out one way, and then after the fact, the gate opener, gate, track, or something gets changed, and you have to make an audible out there in the field. We like to be there when that actual saw cutting's done, and we like to make sure that it gets cleaned up and so on. So this example is with 2 people. I think if you were to do loops with 1 person, your setup time would extend and the installation time would extend by about 30%. So if it takes you an hour to do a loop, well, you probably might be at an hour and 15 or an hour and 20 minutes. So you'll see some live video, and then you'll also see the time lapse of this, and it'll give you an example of how we do the loops and how long it takes. And so far, the loops that we've installed, the service company that I run for this particular job has a over 3-year warranty on loops, and so far we haven't had to replace any loops under warranty. So I'm confident this type of installation works and these types of techniques work, and I'm happy with it after doing a lot of testing and research. So let's take a look and see, talk about the installation itself and a time lapse, and then I'll have some real live video in the field, what my thoughts were right then. So let's take a look at some of the raw data. As you can see, we arrived on site at 7:51 and we left at 9:54. So that was from the second that the truck stopped and we started to unload and prepare for the installation to the second that we picked up all of our equipment, put it back in the truck, and got our load secure and left. So 2 hours for 4 loops, including laying them out, having them saw cut, pressure washed, and the actual installation of the loop. The only additional thing that we would probably do if we were installing the gate operators at that time is do an insulation and an inductance test and document both of those. That state of what the actual loop is very important, because you could have a loop test mediocre from the beginning. So let's say at 30 million ohms of insulation resistance, and you might get concerned, but if it's always tested as that, then that might not be that big of a deal. So documenting the inductance and what the test frequency was, as well as the insulation resistance of the insulation on the conductor, I think that those are both important, and we didn't factor those in here, but you probably add another 15 minutes for that. Got 2 loops going in today, getting ready to cut them over here in Dallas. What a beautiful day. Got exit loop, which also will act as a reverse loop, and then we have outside reverse loop. Then we're going to bring them in right over here to where the gate operator is going to go. One of the things that we like to do is, first of all, use clean blades, brand new blades. They get the width just like we want it, and then we power wash afterwards to keep everything nice and clean and get rid of all the pebbles. So it looks like we're getting ready to crank this up. We're done with these 2 loops. We don't have the gate operators going in yet because we don't have the gates. So as you can see, I thought I was done. I guess I need to do that right there. Where'd that do? Oh, I still got my caulk gun. Oh, if you guys aren't using a cordless caulk gun, I would highly recommend it. I use that one by Milwaukee, and I love it. So anyways, I missed a spot right there, but since the gate operators aren't going in, what we do is just put a flex all the way up to the top. That way, if this gets cut or damaged, I've got plenty left, and that'll also give me ways to route it around there. Let's see, and then a lot of people say something about me overfilling these corners, but the cure depth changes, so I overfill them so I get a proper seal on the corners, because that's where my water is going to possibly come in, because in these spots right here it does nice and smooth seal, and I could control my cure depth a lot better because the backer rod is even. So that's just the way I do it. I know a lot of people out there love those preformed loops. I don't. There's sometimes you gotta have your guy cut and you're not there, so you go out and mark all the loops, and if there's any changes, saw cut guy's not going to know how to do that unless you're cutting them yourself. And there are people that do that, and mad respect to those people who do, but I don't. So these 2 loops are done. It's 8:45. We started saw cutting at 8, so 45 minutes for 2 loops. That's cut, clean, everything. With the exception of marking, we marked 4 loops, and that we started at 7:30, 7:40, and then the saw touched the ground at 8 o'clock. So it's 45 minutes for 2 loops, and then it'll take us another hour and 15 minutes, because I could still hear him over there. He's not done cutting. So as soon as he gets done, wash everything down, and then I'll blow it out, just make sure there's no pebbles in there, and that's it. That's the way I do loops. Here's the other side, just cleaning up and collecting all of our materials. Danny's over there getting a cover put in so we can run it up to the gate operator and have it protected, but more importantly, have it protected while we're not here for the next week until they get the gates in. Looks like there's still some fence that needs to be done as well too. So, all right, took us 45 minutes to do those other loops from the time they actually put the saw down, picked it up. And I don't know what time it is now. It is 9:01, and let's see how quick we can get these done and still do a good job at it. Okay, started at 9:01. It is 9:29. So that's with them cut and cleaned out. It took 28 minutes to seal them, and I only got a couple spots I don't like. There's one over here, and then I was twisting the loop
sealant in the gun, so that'll just take a little bit more time to cure. In an industrial application like this, we don't put down any painter's tape or anything like that, but painter's tape will help keep your lines nice and smooth. Also, slowing down just a little bit will as well. But in these type of applications, this is going to be black in a couple of days anyway, and it won't even be anything that's substantially noticed. Now, it doesn't question the integrity of the sealant there, because it's still going to cure inside the cut. You might see that flap up just a little bit considering that's so thick, but other than that, it's no big deal because it'll cure inside it just fine. And then cosmetics are what they are. You know, I want to go over on those corners, right? So no water. Well, it's not necessarily water. Water's going to get in there. I mean, this concrete's porous. So just the temperature change from the conduit over there, which is not 100% sealed, to all the air that's below this, just a temperature change could actually add moisture in there. Most likely it will. But what I'm trying to do with the backer rod is to get the sealant to cure as best as possible to protect the concrete. The sealant is not designed, or it does do this, but it's just for protecting the concrete to make sure water doesn't get in there, expand and break, and question the integrity of the concrete. This is just for that. It's just for protecting the concrete. And yes, as a side thing, it does prevent rocks and dirt and debris and everything getting down in there. And then the backer rod, which is where a lot of people actually skip, allows the sealant to cure, because your cure depth is half of the width. So if you have a 5/16, that's 2.5/16, so that's 1/8 of cure depth. So you want that backer rod set at about 1/8. And then these corners and stuff like that, like I said, I'm not pressed about having the sealant overflow that. As a matter of fact, I would prefer that because I want it to get everything on the saw cut as best as possible. And then we got our home run over to here. We've got our loop wire secure, and Danny's over there wondering why the hell I'm taking so long. So I got to get to work.
Hopefully that gives you a good idea of how in-ground inductance loops are installed. This particular hand wrapping method is what we found works best for us. This is the easiest, most flexible, most reliable system that we've found to install in this climate that we have here in Texas. We've been using this method for probably 15-16 years, and it's been the best that we've found, and so far we haven't had to replace any loops under warranty. We have to replace them all the time for people cutting through them. We have brand new loops installed, and people come back to cut the relief cuts in the concrete and cut right over our loops. I've had that happen. I've had people pull the wire out of the ground. All kinds of weird stuff like that happening during these new loops, during the new install prior to getting the gate operator in. So we actually came up with a couple techniques to protect against that as well too. But I think that that's a pretty informative look. These can be done efficiently, effectively, and cleanly. You need to have your practices set in place. As you could see, that we were set up specifically to do this, and with two guys it's pretty quick, but it does take time. You have to have a saw cutter come out there, you have to clean up your area, and then it takes we're very particular about having traffic run over the loops while we're working on it. We don't like to have that happen. We're very particular about nobody stepping on the wire, cleaning it out, the actual saw cut after it's done, not only pressure washing it but blowing it out with air, so we can minimize the amount of standing water that we have. So when we do put that self-leveling loop sealant in there, we don't have as many bubbles or any issues with curing to the sides of that. So any questions, feel free to put it below, and I'd be more than happy to answer, and good luck installing loops. Hey, we could really use your help. If you found the information in this video helpful, if you could do us a favor and give us a thumbs up, we would appreciate it. And if you want more information like this regularly, think of following or subscribing to these videos, and we'll get more videos out.